Hello and welcome to another podcast of Releasing Your Inner Dragon. You're here today with Marie and Drake, and we're going to be discussing a day in the life of. I am Marie Mullaney. I'm a YouTuber and fantasy writer, and with me as always is my co-host Drake.
I'm Drake, or Maxwell Alexander Drake. I'm an award-winning novelist. I was a lead fiction writer for a massive game from Sony. I'm writing for another video game now. Got a whole bunch of stuff coming out. I've dabbled in TV and movies and pretty much everything.
And today we are going to, in celebration of 50 of these, over 50 podcasts released, we're going to talk about ourselves, all about us.
We're going to do a podcast that probably should have been the first podcast that we did.
Well, I mean, who'd want to listen to people you don't know you want to listen to talking about their lives?
But we are going to do it kind of a focus on what it means to be a writer. I mean, we do have two cool things about us as a combination. I'm a full-time writer. I got no other gig. I got to, have doctor's visits or go pick up children or whatever, but that's cook dinner. And you have a full-time job. So, it's this, there's a dichotomy there that's really cool to kind of see the differences between like how we approach different lives and how we approach the work and so on and so forth. So I think this is gonna be a good episode. I'm excited.
Let's start with your day in the life of. What do you do to kind of get out of bed and start writing?
So this is one of the reasons why I don't like every time I've got a new marketing team, but in the past the marketers have done the same thing. They're like, oh, you gotta do social media more because just whatever you're doing during the day. And I'm like, well, let me see. I wake up, I do my morning routine in the bathroom, I go downstairs, I cook me breakfast and have my coffee and my vitamins and all of that. I'm usually at my desk by 8:30. I start writing on whatever project. So I have to be segmented because I have way too much on my plate. I got too many projects that I do. So every day is scheduled of this is the day I'm going to do this. And usually I can stick to it. I didn't finish. So yesterday was a realm day and there was something I didn't finish by the end of the day. So I am going to work on that today, even though today's not a realm day. And it's a half day since we record podcasts on Thursdays. But I'm still going to go ahead and finish that because I need that done before our meeting on Sunday. And, if I've got time, then I'll move to today's half day project is I spend on the Genesis saga. So I'll get to that later today. But I write until my tummy says you're hungry. And then I go downstairs and usually have a very small, maybe I'll eat a sandwich or just not really. I don't eat a lot. I never have. Even back when I was heavier before my cancer treatment, when I was 240, 250, I still didn't. I feel like I eat the same amount, but now I'm 155 and I'm just staying at 155. Back then I stayed at 240. I'll get something little. I might take time to lay on the couch and play a little video game on my phone or something like that for 30 minutes just to kind of take a break. Then I come back up here and I write until my wife calls me and tells me she's on her way home from work. And then if I don't get food on the table by the time she gets home, she'll beat me with a stick. So, I go downstairs and I cook dinner and we have dinner together. And sometimes the boys join us and sometimes they don't. Depends on if they're sleeping during the day or sleeping at night. They rotate constantly. So who knows? And then I will usually, depending on, how mentally awake I still am, I'll usually come back and do another hour or 2 hours work until 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And then I'm usually asleep by 9:30, 10 o'clock to get back up the next day at 6, 7, 6:30 usually is when I wake up. So that's it. That's my day. And that is 7 days a week. I don't take holidays off and again, it's one of the reasons because I have too much work on my plate. I've taken on too much and I've kind of done that because I'm freaking out because I lost a year to cancer and I lost 3 years to another, I can never say the word, a hormone issue, but the endocrine system or whatever it is. So I had an issue with that took me out for about 3 years and then, the year off for cancer. So I feel like I'm way behind. And so I'm just pouring myself into as much as I possibly can and writing as fast as I possibly can. And still doing private consulting, and I run a writers group once a week. So that's from usually 5 to 9. One week it's on Wednesday, the next week it's on Thursday. It's 2 different groups. I've got students calling me all the time and asking me whatever. I do a monthly class at the library here that I've been doing for 15 years. Right now I'm casting actors for, I'm going to do the Genesis Saga, the first book of the director's cut. I want to get out. My target is June. And so I want to have the audiobook out by then too. And I really want to do it as an all cast audiobook because I just think that's really cool. And so, because I have so many different races and accents and dialects and, you know, the ways people talk. And I just really wanted to hear all that stuff because when the first 2 books were published by the publisher got a guy named Cameron Byerly, who has read for David Eddings, and he's a fantastic, amazing freaking narrator. But he's got this big, you know, deep bass voice, and so his women and his children are not necessarily the best. And no matter what with narrators, and when you have one narrator on audiobook, I've rarely hear them have the ability to really stretch themselves and make every single character sound very, very different.
Yeah.
And I really want to, I'm leaning into the whole accent thing, and I really do want that. So I've been doing that over the last couple of weeks. I've had an open casting call in LA and here in Vegas, and I'm getting demo reels in and going through that and casting all the different roles. Because we need to go into production by in January to have it all done and ready. And I'm going to read the narration and then let the actors do all the voices. And so, you know, that still working on the cartoon. I do have an animator who's come on board. And so we're trying to gear that back up. It went on hold because of cancer, but I've already got the 2 actors for that cast. I've already got the scripts written. I've already got all the assets generated. You know, it's all 3D. So I've got that done. So that's another thing that I have to shove in somewhere into my work schedule. So I mean, I just work. I work from morning till I go to sleep at night, but I don't feel like I work. I mean, I'm just making crap up and having fun and laughing at my stupid cartoon jokes and, you know, really feeling the heartache or the pain or the joy or the love of my serious fantasy work. It's just fun. I just really love it. I don't feel like I'm working. And, you know, it's cheesy, but it goes back to that. If you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And that's pretty much the way I sit. So it's my day. Now your day is different because you got a lot more responsibilities than I've got.
Sure. So I'm a full-time software developer. It's my actual day job is writing code, but I've never struggled to write code. Right? It's never been hard for me to get up in the morning and go to my coding job, right? Because I do honestly love the process and production of writing code. It is a pleasure to me.
Let me ask a question.
Yeah.
Are you working remotely or you go to an office?
So after post-COVID, it's all remote pretty much. So whatever else COVID did, it was one hell of a blessing for those of us in the IT industry who've been saying for years, but we can work from home. And everybody's like, no, we want to see your faces because we come from the 1950s, you know, and then COVID came and it was like, oh, actually, we do have all the infrastructure to work from home. So,
right. Well, just a side note, when I was working for Sony back in 2012 to 2015, when they hired me as their lead fiction writer, they were like, you know, you got to live in San Diego. I'm like, yeah, no, then I can't work for you because I am not moving to California. That is not happening. And they were like, well, maybe we can make an exception for you. And I was like, okay, I know I have them, you know, I know they want me. And they were like, but we're still going to fly you down here every month. And I'm like, okay. And they gave me a corner office and they put me up in an extended stay place with kitchen and everything like that, and rented me a car and flew me down. And after a couple of times, because I would be in my hotel room working on my stuff. In the morning, I'd go to work. I'd get there. I'd go into my little corner office. I'd close the door. Maybe one of the devs would come and knock on my door at lunchtime and say, hey, we're going out to eat. Do you want to go with us? And I'd go out to eat with them. I'd come back. I'd close my door, 5 o'clock, I'd clock out, I'd go back to my hotel room, and then I'd start writing my own stuff. And like I kept saying, I don't need, I mean, we did have meetings. So, it's a massive video game. So we have meetings every day. And so I was there for those. But we also had, even back then, we still had Skype and all of that. So
that's exactly, that's like it. And it was actually COVID that got me into writing at all, right? Because, okay, so firstly, I have to say that living in Finland means that I work 7.5 hours a day. Okay. And I don't work more than that, because if I work more than that, my boss is like, okay, but now I have to pay you for those extra hours, firstly. And secondly, is something wrong? Am I overloading you with too much work? Is there, like, you work overtime here and people are like, why are you working overtime? What's wrong? Do we need to hire more people? It's because
it's a little different in America, because they're like, why aren't you putting in the extra time?
Yes. So we have a very big culture of you get paid to work 7.5 hours. That's what you work, not more. The end. And unless something's gone wrong, in which case you are compensated for those extra hours.
Yeah, we get time and a half too if we're over. If so, like my wife's salary, and she's just a kindergarten teacher, but they had the school. So the school closes at 6. So she's there from 7:30 to 6, even though she only gets paid for technically 8 hours. But last night they had like an open house thing. So the school was open. Yeah. So she had other things that she wanted to do in her classroom. So she was there. She didn't leave there until I think 8:30. And she does not get, she's on salary. So it doesn't matter how many hours she works. She gets the same. And a lot of companies in America do that, where if they can put you on salary and then work you extra hours, just the way it is.
I am on salary, but what they do is they break that salary down into an hourly rate and they pay you that, because you are not allowed to ask your staff to work overtime without paying them in Finland. It is against the labor regulations.
It is here too. If you're an hourly employee, we just have a loophole where if you're salaried, technically they don't have to pay you that overtime.
I hear people who are like, unions or this and unions or that, but Finland's heavily unionized, and the result is that we have got good labor laws. I'm just saying. Not all unions are bad. Anyway, so I work for 7.5 hours in the day. So I normally clock in at around 8:30ish. I'll be starting my work. Then I break for lunch, and after lunch, I normally try and take a walk at lunch. And the reason why, and why I go out for lunch, is because Finland in winter, even in Helsinki, where I live in the southern part of Finland, is, I mean, we get 4 hours of daylight.
Man.
So like, never mind the snow, like you don't see the sun much, because it's just 4 hours that the sun's actually up. And it's not like the sun doesn't fully rise. It doesn't go up into the top of the horizon. It kind of crawls around the side of the horizon like this. It's weird. And so in winter, especially, like if you don't go out for a walk over lunch, you could go days without seeing the sun. And we call it winter depression here. I mean, lots of people get winter depression. In Finland, it's quite hectic for that reason. So, I try and make a habit of going for a walk at lunch, so that it's a habit in winter as well, so that I see the sun at least a little bit. And then I finish at around 5-ish, or whatever the case is, when I've finished my tasks. Then it very much depends. So on Mondays, Wednesdays, and on the weekend, I write on Sangwheel Chronicles, and it's normally like a chapter a day. So I write about 3 chapters in a week.
How many words average do you have as a chapter?
About 3,000 to 5,000 words, depending on the chapter. Yeah. I do a fair chunk of research for my YouTube channel in between. So I watch like Curiosity Stream. I listen to podcasts, a lot of history stuff, a lot of natural stuff, depending on what I'm doing the podcast on. Yeah. And then in between that, I sort of edit videos, edit this podcast, that kind of thing. Then on Thursdays, like you, I record the podcast. And Tuesdays is actually my role-playing night. So I run a game on Tuesdays.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna need to break in 2028 for an hour, and I'd like to maybe role play for that hour, or maybe play a video game, or watch some TV. Like maybe I'll do that. Again, I've decided to do this, but I need to get back on the market. I need to get this stuff out there. I need to get back. I mean, as a writer, you only make money putting stuff out.
Yeah.
And, because I've lost so many years to health issues, my putting things out has dwindled. And so I need to get back and reawaken my fan base. And, that's one of the reasons why I'm cranking so hard on all this stuff. I actually am trying to get out my next creative writing book by January, so I can have it for a big writers conference that I'm doing in February. So I'd love to have that new writing book, which I'm super excited about. I am having so much fun with it. It is called The Holy Book of Grammar for Writers. And it literally is a book where I'm teaching you grammar. That's it. That's what the book is. But it's in my snarky way that's very easy to understand. And the thing that separates it and makes it so much different is not only do I teach you an aspect of writing, like what is a simple sentence, and break that all down and go through all the different things, because simple sentences are actually not very simple. But then I talk about why you need to know this, how you use it in your writing, how to take advantage of its power, how to bend it, how to break it. And so, and all of those are specific for prose writing. So it technically isn't a book. Like if you were like a German and you're like, I don't speak English, so I'm going to buy a grammar book to learn grammar. This is probably not going to be that book. I don't see a lot of colleges, English courses going, and the grammar book we're using is the Holy Book of Grammar. I don't see that. Now, creative writing should, because again, it is absolutely targeted to the creative writing aspect, but I am teaching hardcore. I mean, I just wrote a section on prepositional phrases, and I went through this: what a prepositional phrase is. This is what a preposition is. This is what a prepositional phrase is. This is how it's used. This is where it shows up. This is how to identify it. This is how to use it to effect. This is how to break it, how to bend it, blah, blah, blah. And so it is grammar. Like there's no punches being pulled here, but it's really funny and stupid. And I am writing it as a religious text. So because every one of my things, I have a gimmick. So like in the first one, my mother was the villain. And the next one, my third grade teacher was the villain. In this one, I'm a priest and you're my acolyte. And we're doing a very holy pilgrimage through a very, holy land. Some might find it sacrilegious because I am pushing it a little bit because I am kind of dorky. But it's funny. I'm thoroughly enjoying it.
So let me ask you, how much do you churn in a day, like words wise?
I'm a weird writer when it comes to my first draft. So my first draft is actually 6 times through the piece. So I do the raw writing, and then I do 5 very distinct types of edits through it. And yes, I know that maybe you shouldn't qualify that as my raw writing or my first draft, but that's just how I do it. And so I average doing all of that over the course of how many hours. If I write for 4 hours or 6 hours or 8 hours, I average 600 to 700 words an hour. So it just really depends on, if I write for 10 hours, I'm going to put down 6,000 to 7,000 words, but that's my first draft, which again is actually 6 drafts. I mean, it's clean. There's no typos. There's no, in the last podcast, we kind of went through some of the crazy crap that I used to help me really hone down and make it a really fine. So it's almost published ready.
Let me ask you a different question. What do you do when you get stuck? So let's say you've got a chapter that you need to be writing and it just won't.
I've never had that happen.
Never.
It's never happened. No, because I'm such a heavy plotter. I've got stuck when I was trying to figure it out when I was plotting.
Okay, so what do you do when you're stuck in plotting? When you're like,
Oh, I just chase rabbits.
oh.
So before I did a lot of this on my own and on dry erase boards. Now that I have a pretty good team around me, especially this team of writers that is working on the writers group. So one of is my latest protege, Connor Crenshaw, or AC Crenshaw. I now it's so funny because if you were to walk by my window and saw us doing this stuff, you would think that I was in a psychiatric session, because I'm laying on my couch, staring at the ceiling, just talking, and Alan is sitting in the chair with a notepad and he's just scribbling furiously as I'm just chasing rabbits. And I'll go, and he contributes. I'm not saying he doesn't contribute. He absolutely throws out things. He, one of the big things that he does that helps me a lot is he challenges me, because he'll go, yeah, I don't understand that. You're gonna have to explain that a little bit deeper, because I shorthand so much in my head, because everything I see, since I'm dyslexic, I don't see words. I only see images. I only see scenes. I only see pictures and movies, and that's it. I've never seen a word in my head ever. One of the first ones was we were actually working out a chunk of like a 25,000 word section, and I went, oh, pitch black, and I just wrote pitch black on the Post-it note, and I put it up there, and I was like, that's it. I'm done. And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna need a little more information than pitch black. And I'm like, well, it's the movie, Vin Diesel, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, I know the movie, but I'm going to need a little bit more information than that. So he challenges me to really have to dig a little deeper. And the beautiful thing about that is, the deeper you dig, the more you uncover. And then he has his own ideas. He's a brilliant writer as well. So he's throwing out things and everything. The Realm of the Dying Sun is unique in the fact that even though there's 4 writers writing on it, it's one story. The big thing for me with plotting, and I think we're going to do a podcast about this really soon, where we're going to start plotting something together. And so people will be able to see this live. So when I'm plotting and when I'm seeing a scene, everything is about the emotions of the reader. So when I see something, it's always about how is it going to impact the reader. So like when I threw out pitch black, this is going to be an underground, creepy thing with flying monsters that come out of nowhere, bite flesh off of you, and then disappear into the darkness. And so the emotions of this scene are going to be horror and terror and confusion. And that's really all I need. It's all I need to go into that scene is, what do I need to impact the reader with? And since I know this is what the reader's going to be impacted with, I'll figure out the details. All I really need to know is that. And so Alan's starting to get used to it, where when we're just at the high level, I call it the 10,000 foot elevation level, I'll throw out pitch black and he'll go, I don't understand that, but he's going to get there eventually, and we'll circle back around to it, because I'm trying to paint a bigger picture. I'm trying to go not just this one moment in time where we're going to be in these cave system fighting these flying horror monsters, but I'm trying to figure out something much larger, a much larger chunk of the story. And so all I need at that moment is, this is what this is going to be, because then I can use that and I go, okay, I know we're coming out of this horror thing. What's the emotions I need to now take my readers into? What's the next thing logically that I'm going to flow into to keep them on this roller coaster ride of emotions? And so that's really what I'm doing. And then to figure it out, I know what the emotions are. So I then just start chasing rabbits, and I go, oh, it'd be cool. What if this happened? Let's chase that. And I'll go, okay, so if this happened, then they would do this, and then that would lead to this, and then that would go here, and that all sucks. I don't like any of that. So what's something different? Well, okay, so what if this happened instead? And then that would lead to here, which would lead to here. Oh, this would be a cool scene. That would lead to here. And then, yeah, no, that takes us down the wrong direction. But I like that one scene that we came up with, so I'm going to keep that in the back of my head. What's something else we could do? And then I just keep going down these holes. I'll even he'll throw out an idea and I'll go, that doesn't work at all, but let's chase that rabbit, because you don't know what you're going to find down that hole. You may find some nugget that you can use. Like, I know for a fact that the idea isn't going to work going in. Like, maybe I'll throw it out even. I mean, it doesn't have to be Alan. I'm not picking on him. So I'll throw out an idea that I know 100% can't work from jump, but I'll still chase that rabbit while we're at that 10,000 foot elevation, because I might run into a moment in that thing that I go, oh, that's got impact. I'm going to use that somehow in this, even though I know I went down a hole that literally is not going to, bear fruit. So that's really what I do. I do a lot. And that's why I don't like doing this. And I can't do this as a discovery writer. I can't, because I can't write 20,000 words and throw it away, and then write 20,000 words and throw it away, and write 20,000 words and throw it away. But in 5 minutes, I can sit there on the couch and just spew off. And, I used to do it just alone. My co-creator for my cartoon, I've talked about before, Charlie, he's a great sounding board as well. So that's what I used to use probably more than anything, is we get on Skype, because he lives on the other side of the country. And, he would do basically the same thing that Alan would do. He just wouldn't take notes for me. I was responsible for my own note taking. So I like Alan much better because I don't have to take notes now. But really, it's just that's why I can't be a discovery writer, because I'm a discovery plotter. So I'm going to discover this thing, but I can do it really fast. I mean, in 30 minutes, I can come up with a 150,000 word story, just by going down this and this and that and then this, and eventually some ideas start sticking from different places, and you finally find this road that just goes perfectly down the direction you want, with all the emotions and all the value and everything. And so by the time I start writing, I've got everything figured out. And because that's just the 10,000 foot, then I do a synopsis where I start breaking it out. Even from my stuff, I break out scene by scene, and then I get in and start writing those things. So once I'm in writing mode, there is no stopping. There is no, for me, the cool thing is the muse coming up with stuff that I didn't think about. Like I just wrote a fight scene a couple weeks ago where I knew that that he was going to be fighting these twins. I just thought that was a cool idea. The way the fight went, he ends up killing one of them, and that twin is like in distress and there, and the guy is, so this is a part of the rewrite. So actually, this was probably about a year ago. Longer than that because of cancer. Anyway, he has this moment. So he's a beast, and that's what he's called in this chapter, is the beast. And he thinks to himself, just because everyone else thinks I'm a beast doesn't mean I'm a monster. And so he lets, even though he's supposed to kill this kid, he lets him mourn for a few seconds his dead brother. Like I didn't plot that out. I didn't think about that. It just, when it happened, and he's killed the brother, and I'm allowing because I allow every one of my characters to try to act as organically as possible. So if my brother just got killed in front of me, I'm gonna take a second or whatever if I can. And so when that happened, since I'm also the beast, I'm like, you know what? I'm not a monster. He just lost his brother. I'm gonna kill him too, but I'm gonna give him a minute. And that was just so touching. It was actually in this brutal fight scene, there's this moment of compassion. I didn't know that was coming. I had no idea. That's just the muse kind of doing that on the fly. And those are the things that really excite me when I'm writing. But I already knew they was fighting twins. I already knew he was going to kill both of them. I already knew how the story had to go. And so this little nugget, this little, strawberry that I get to eat in the middle of this that I wasn't expecting, those are just the magic moments, and those happen all the time. But I think those happen because now, while I'm writing, I'm free of thinking about the big stuff, like the big moments and how we what is the conflict and how do we overcome that conflict. I've already figured all that stuff out. So now when I'm writing, I can let the muse just go, what about this little cool thing that has, that just adds value and emotion to this moment. But the moment still is already plotted out. So it's still going to happen the way it was. And I think by plotting so heavily, it allows me to do those moments that are just magical, in my opinion. Just stuff that I never would have thought about if I was just writing it and trying to figure everything out at the time, or even if I just wrote what I plotted. Because that's, I talk about that all the time. If you are a plotter, the one thing that is your Achilles heel is being pig-headedly loyal to what you've plotted. You're like, nope, I plotted this way, I'm going to do it this way. Don't do that, because it will feel, if the muse takes you in a different direction, then throw out what you've plotted, replot. It's not that big of a deal. So, that's really, for me, kind of long-winded, but that's where I'm at when I don't run into those problems, because I've already worked out those big things. What about you? Because you are a pantser.
I am. So, well, I'm a pantser who does a lot of world building up front. And I do, like this third book now, I wrote 120,000 words, and then I was like, I'm really missing a plot line in the beginning. So I've gone back and I've started reworking from the bottom. But what I do now is I'm not working on a blank slate, right? Because I know, like, I've already got 120,000 words, and all of that 120,000 words is relevant content. It's all going to go into the book, but it's changing. It's going into different places, and there's additional scenes coming in and so on. But what I do when I'm stuck is I will tend to fall back onto world building. I'll be like, okay, hold on. I'm stuck. I'm stuck in this community. What do I know about this community? What is their history? What's around them? Are there any notable landmarks? Or I'm stuck in this court scene. What do I know about the court? Let me go look at my factions again. Which of my factions can I use to unstick myself? So I'll go into like my world and be like, what have I got that I haven't tugged on yet in order to get over the spot where I just don't seem to be able to get past? I can't figure out how to get the character past here. And most of the times that works. And on the very rare occasions when it doesn't, I find that generally I'm trying to force a story where there isn't one. Either like your plotters who get addicted to their plot, I'm like, but I have this image in my head of where the story must go, and the characters are like, yeah, but that was when we were this way, and we're no longer this because you changed those storylines, and now we're not going to hit that point anymore. Like, that's not going to happen. then you actually just have to like go, actually, I'm not going to hit that point. That's not going to happen. So.
Yeah. And that happens occasionally, because I am very true to my characters. I let my characters do what they want to do. And then how I curtail them is using the story to be the guide rails or the guardrails. So when they are like, I'm going to go this way, and I don't care what you think you need to do, the story can go, yeah, no, this thing is in your way and it's impassable, and it's all organic and everything like that. But it allows me to make sure that I can keep my characters feeling as if they're making the decisions that they would make, but still I got to reach the end of the story. Like you can't just have characters meandering around and doing whatever they want, because then they'll never reach the end of the story. So, that's kind of how I do it. But that's with the main characters. With tertiary characters and secondary characters, I let them do whatever the hell they want to do. Like, I talk to my tertiary characters. I've talked about this before, where I'm like, oh, you're in this scene and you're going to die. But if you didn't die, how would you like to see the scene go? And they will be like, well, I would like to have this happen. And then I will let them do everything in their power to make that happen. And it does sometimes put me into some interesting situations where I thought the character was going to overcome them this way, but because they actually did this other thing, the character actually has to make different decisions to overcome it. The character's still going to overcome it, but because the tertiary character is acting in a very natural, organic way, it forces the character to make a few different decisions to be able to overcome this moment or whatever. It's one of the reasons why I love relationships so much, especially with secondary characters. I actually really like, so in Genesis, there's 2 romance arcs, and one is between 2 POV characters, and one is between a POV character and a secondary character. And I actually enjoy writing the one where it's a secondary character better, because she isn't restricted by the guardrails of the story. So what she wants, she just goes after, and the story and the character have to react to that. Whereas the 2 POV characters, they have guardrails. They have to reach the end of the story. And so sometimes it's a little harder for me to write their relationship. Plus, she's a remorseless, emotionless killing machine, which is also really hard to have a relationship with. But that's a fun relationship too. What do you read or look at that you consider is beneficial to you as a writer? Not just as a fan, but like, do you have anything that you lean on that you use to think about writing and try to make yourself a better writer?
Well, I mean, besides this podcast and that kind of thing, obviously, I also I do watch there's some Brandon Sanderson lectures available that you can watch and things like that. So I do watch some of that. I do also follow Neil Gaiman, who tosses out quite a few nuggets on various social media platforms, which suit me as a pantser, like his style of writing. I also try and widen my reading, right? So, for example, I've just started listening to Perdito Street, the station on Perdito Street Station by China Melville, however you pronounce that. And it's not the kind of story that I would generally read, but his name keeps coming up when it comes to somebody who really uses intense prose. And I was like, I really actually want to read and consume some intense prose for a bit. So, I'll listen to the story, even though it really isn't. If you want to experience some intense prose, I can recommend it, but it is some fairly highfalutin language, and my English is good, so
So in other words, if you're American, you probably won't understand it.
it's intense. There's some intense words going on there. So I do that kind of thing, where I'm sometimes I actually want to look at this kind of aspect of writing, and then I'll go and find books, fiction books that specifically have that aspect of writing, and sort of try and experience it and consume it for the purpose of understanding what's going on there.
And for me, I mean, unfortunately, I'm not reading a lot of fiction these days. I'm working on so much that I don't have time, which is a shame. I still read nonfiction writing stuff, where I'm actually getting, because you also do this as well, you just do it online, but where I get a lot of my kind of in the trenches work is with my two writing groups. So, every week I've got 4 or 5 people bringing 1,000 words in. So you're talking 4,000 to 5,000 words that are being read. And then not only am I editing it on the, while we're doing it, but I'm also listening to the other people editing it. And I can go, oh, that's an interesting take on that. Or, you know what, let me add to that. That's one of the reasons why I always go last, because I really do want them to grow as that. And the funny thing is each group now has one person that kind of has become Drake. And I really do, I let them, and we never even talked about it. They just kind of fell into this role where they had so much confidence in, now they've been doing this. They've both, been in the group for a couple of years, and they've gone through my classes and everything like that. And they've really kind of well, here's the problem that I have with it, or here's something you should think about with this, or here's, why this, I don't feel like it works. And so I've kind of let them almost take the writers group over and let me just sit in the background and just really hit some high level stuff that maybe they missed or that they haven't thought about or whatever. So that's been really nice, but that's really where I get a lot of my in the trenches. And you're doing online critiquing.
Yeah, so I spend a fair chunk, I spend probably an hour or 2 each day on Critique Circle.
Wow.
In general, because I'm critiquing other people's work and so on. I don't sleep very much. And it's a website where you can, critique other people's work, but you can also, once you've critiqued somebody's piece, you can also open the other critiques on that person's piece. So you can also look at what other people are saying about the same piece. And you can you get exposed to a lot of different kinds of writing and get your own work critiqued and all the rest of that jazz. So, yeah.
See, I thought you were going to say 1 or 2 hours a week. That's great. I mean, because, 5 to 9 once a week is what I'm devoting to critiquing other people, unless it's a private client. And then obviously they're paying me for my services. And so I give them 100%.
5 to 9 is 4 hours, right?
Right.
And
But
you
that's
run,
once
yeah. So it's half an hour a day. So I spend a little more than that. I spend an hour a day.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you're right. I guess the math works out too. I'm spending a half an hour. Again, for me, because I am so chaotic and so scatterbrained, I do need harder schedules. And it's weird. So I rail against order. I'm chaos. So like my wife learned when we would go on vacation or whatever in the beginning, because she's so OCD, she's CDO because she can't have the letters out of order. And so in the beginning of our relationship, she would map out every day of our vacation from the moment we were to wake up to the moment we eat every meal to the moment we do all this stuff. And I, as hardcore as I am as a plotter in writing, I'm the exact opposite in everything else in life. And so it's this weird game that I have to play with myself, because if I give myself too hard of a schedule, like years ago, I tried to do the whole, you will write this many words a day. And so I made an Excel spreadsheet and I had, one column with my quotas, and then I'd put in my actual written words. And so I'd be ahead or behind. And within a week, I actually stopped writing. I literally just was like, I can't even write, because it was so organized that my brain was like, nope, I'm out. You're not a writer anymore. You just, if you're going to do that, then you quit. That's it. You're gone. And so like, even though I schedule things, so like, it can't be to like, it's one of the reasons why I show up to this podcast and I have no idea what we're going to talk about. I show up and I'm like, all right, what are we talking about today? And then you're like, this is what we're going to talk about now. I'm like, okay, let's talk about that. Because that now there's some excitement for me to show up on Thursday, because I have no idea what we're going to talk about. So this is new and fresh and kind of cool. And so even like scheduling the projects that I'm doing on today, like I said, today after this is a Genesis day, I have no idea what I'm going to work on with Genesis. I don't. So it's new and fresh, and it's not like I have any word count. I might be editing, I might be plotting, I might be writing. I have no idea. I'll figure that out when I get into it, because I do have a weird brain. And if I do schedule too much, my brain will rebel and I'll shut down and I just won't do it. I'll just go play a video game, because my brain is like, nope, I'm on strike, not doing it. You're gonna play a video game, I don't care.
So I'm very organized without writing anything down. I have a meeting calendar for work. And other than that, I know what I'm doing because I know what I'm doing. And I very rarely take notes. I very rarely put anything into a schedule, because I don't, generally speaking, need to. I only put very specific appointments in. But like things like bills, etc., like you were talking about the bills now. So I get bills that I have to pay, not with cutting a check, but with, we've got this banking system where you can scan the invoice and it automatically goes off your account and so on. So when I get one of those invoices, if I'm not going to pay it right now, right this second, when I open the envelope, then I put it next to my desk in a specific, like what would have been an in tray, back in the old days. And then when I'm like, okay, today I'm paying my bills, then I just scan and pay them all and, file them away.
I shouldn't do this,
Yeah.
but I will show everybody my inbox that's on my desk if I can stretch there's my inbox.
Yeah.
It's just random stacks of paper that aren't even really stacked up. It just gets thrown there.
No.
Because I don't want to deal with it.
No.
I just don't.
I can't, like, I can't deal with that kind of chaos in my immediate space. I need some clarity. Now, I won't show my desk because my desk is entirely covered in rubberized foam. So it looks really weird. It looks like a BDSM desk. But the reason why it's entirely covered in rubberized foam is because I record YouTube videos and audiobooks in here. And
right.
The desk is a lot of, so if this is me knocking on my desk.
Right.
I can't hear it. The problem with
will go a long way to that too.
Yeah.
Like when we were recording, I've got my office room is in the front of the house and very big, but the air conditioning doesn't get up here. It's got an air conditioning vent. It's just that the way they built this house was stupid, and I just don't get over it. So I have to have my own air conditioner. So when we started recording this in the very beginning, I was like, how bad is the air? Because I do turn off the air conditioning when I'm recording in here, because this is also my studio as well. Not necessarily here at my desk, but on the other side, I have an area that's kind of set up as a studio, and I still turn off the air for recording.
Yeah, so I've just I've got a completely so here I'll show just a little bit of it. This is what my desk looks like. You can see it's literally like rubberized.
Yeah.
And my I've got sound tiles behind me and in front of me, and a tapestry and curtains and all of that kind of things. Because what happens with anything metal and wood is sound jumps onto it, and then you start getting echoes and reverb in your recording, and that gets very tiring to listen to.
There's so much crap in my office though, because I thought about like, well, first of all, there's no room on any wall to put foam on it because there's something on every wall. I mean, there's dragons hanging from the ceiling. There's a pickle Rick right there. There's autographed photos. There's all my collectible dolls, books, and everything like that. So sound does not echo in this room anyway, because there's just so much stuff to break the sound up. So I haven't had a problem recording in here, because that is one thing when I first started looking at recording.
I am such a minimalist that this room, before I put any rubber into it, and it's not a very big room, it echoed like it was an auditorium, because it was nothing. It was my desk, my chair, my computer screen, and a lamp. I didn't even have curtains. I only had blinds, right? Because I'm like, I don't like stuff. I'm very anti-stuff. and so
again, that's where we're different, because I'm not a hoarder. Like for other things, I throw everything in my life away that isn't geek. But if it's geek, I mean, I still have the stuff that I bought when I was 8, 9, 10 years old. Like if it's geek, I still have it. I still, it has memory and value to me and everything like that. Which is why I still have all my D&D stuff from, back in the 70s, just everything, every graphic novel that I've ever bought, every comic book, every novel that I've ever bought, even the gaming consoles. We have all the gaming consoles from the decades, and all the, because I usually buy a couple hundred games for every single one of them. By the time it's the lifespan of it is over, I have all of it, and it all still works. It looks terrible. Like it's so crazy to pull up an old game where you're like, oh man, I really love this game. I'm gonna just be nostalgic. I'm gonna play it. I'm like, oh my God, what is this? This is horrible looking, because things have changed so much.
So I embraced everything cloud wise. So like, I don't buy physical games anymore. I buy them all on, software that has a key somewhere in the cloud. I don't buy physical books. I buy Kindle books or audiobooks. Like the only physical books that I will buy now or get now is signed books. I'm like,
right.
Anything else, I would rather have in digital format, which fits in my pocket. Like
I get that. And it is nice. And I do read some things digitally, but for probably 30 years, the rule was if I ever went into Target, I had to buy a movie. I mean, Walmart. If I went to Walmart, I had to buy a movie. And we go to Walmart all the time. That is our store. You can get everything there. So no matter what, I might be going, I was like, oh, I need batteries. I got to buy a movie. It didn't matter. Oh, I need windshield wiper fluid for my car. Got to buy a movie. So I've got like 8,000 DVDs that are in this area in the house. And it was a sad day when I finally was like, I'm not going to buy a movie. I mean, when streaming hit, it just became silly to buy anything, because almost everything I have access to with all the different streaming services. And then there was that transition period where they came with the digital version of it too. And so I have my digital accounts that have the same movies digitally that I have on the shelf. And so there was probably a 2-year period of time where we didn't ever watch a DVD. We bought the movie, put the code in for the digital version, watched the digital version, and the DVD went on the shelf. And so I don't know, 5 years ago or so is when I finally I gave up. I'm like, all right, you win. But I still like my books. The only thing that I 100% believe that you just lose everything trying to do it digitally is comic books and graphic novels. I got some friends that do it, but man, it's just, I've tried that. It's such a horrible experience for me.
The only way you can do a graphic novel is if you do it like on a tablet, in my opinion, because you need a big
and
screen.
I have that, but I'm saying it still loses. It just, I don't know. There's something about it. Like words are words. So a novel, I don't really feel like I'm doing a difference between reading a novel physically or reading a novel on one of my devices. And you're right. Now I'm pretty much to the point where the only novels I'm buying are because they're authors that I respect, authors that I know, authors that I'm going to go out to dinner with at some point. So I'm going to take the book with me and get them to sign it for me so I don't have to stand in line. So, those are the ones that I tend to now, that's all I buy physically. And so I will buy a lot of what I'm doing is audiobooks is what I've kind of switched to, because I do try to walk a couple miles a day. I try to get up. I set a timer for an hour and a half, and I don't sit more than an hour and a half, except for like this podcast is the only time where I really do spend this much time sitting. Normally when I'm writing, at least every hour, and then the hour and a half is the actual limit. But every hour I try to get up and I'll go hit the treadmill for 15 minutes. I'll do some push-ups, some free weights, because I have an exercise, area. And, ride. I have a stationary bike too, so I might ride it or whatever. And so I throw on the audiobook at that point, and I'm just listening to the audiobook while I'm doing that for 15, 20 minutes. And then I come back and I write for another hour and a half. And then I go back and just hit the exercise for 15, 20 minutes. So I'm exercising all day long just to kind of, first of all, I lost all of my strength in cancer treatment. I literally couldn't even stand for 2 minutes. My muscles all atrophied and all that. But even before cancer, I was, still walking every day and lifting weights and trying to be active, because sitting will kill you. Like that's literally what kills most modern people.
So I do audiobooks, when I walk and so on. And as I said, like it's important to get out of the house, especially now with working from home. It's easy to do nothing but the 3 steps from the office to the bedroom. And I think that's a pretty good note on which to end this. I hope that you guys enjoyed learning a little bit more about us, and we will see you soon for another episode.
Bye.